Shadows of Eldridge Hollow. Introduction. In the quiet corners of the world, where forgotten roads wind through mist-shrouded forests and the echoes of the past linger like unquiet spirits, there exist places that defy the boundaries of the living and the dead. Eldridge Hollow is one such place, a ghost town swallowed by time, its streets paved with the bones of sorrow and its air thick with the whispers of the damned. It is here that grief takes form, where the veil between worlds thins to a fragile thread, and where demons lurk, feeding on the broken hearts of those who dare to seek what they've lost. Our story begins not in the hollow itself, but in the mundane world of a small town called Riverton, nestled in the rolling hills of upstate New York. Here, life moves at a predictable pace. Children play in parks, families gather for Sunday dinners, and the seasons change with reassuring regularity. But for one young girl, Amelia Whitaker, this world shattered irreparably on a fateful autumn night. Amelia, at just 16 years old, was the younger sister of Ethan, her 20-year-old brother who had been her anchor, her confidant, and her greatest source of joy. Ethan was the kind of person who lit up rooms with his easy laugh and boundless energy, a college student studying engineering, with dreams of building bridges that connected not just land but people. Their bond was unbreakable, forged in the fires of a tumultuous childhood. Their parents, divorced when Amelia was 10, had left the siblings to rely on each other more than most. Ethan had stepped into the role of protector, helping Amelia with homework, defending her from schoolyard taunts, and sharing late-night talks about life, love, and the mysteries of the universe. "You're stronger than you know, Mia," he'd say, using the nickname only he was allowed to utter. "No matter what, I'll always have your back." But fate is cruel, and on that rainy October evening 2 years ago, Ethan was taken from her. He had been driving home from a part-time job at the local garage, the roads slick with fallen leaves and relentless downpour. A truck, its driver distracted by a phone call, crossed the center line. The collision was catastrophic, metal twisting, glass shattering, lives ending in an instant. Ethan didn't suffer, the coroner said, but that brought no comfort to Amelia. She was left with a void that no amount of therapy or sympathy could fill. In the months that followed, Amelia's world dimmed. Colors seemed muted, laughter hollow. She withdrew from friends, her grades plummeted, and nights were plagued by nightmares where she relived the accident, hearing the screech of tires and Ethan's imagined screams. Her mother, Karen, tried to help, but her own grief manifested in overprotectiveness, smothering Amelia with constant check-ins and forced family outings. Her father, living across town with his new family, offered sporadic visits, but they felt obligatory, laced with guilt. Amelia began seeing things, fleeting glimpses of Ethan in crowds, his familiar silhouette turning a corner just out of reach. At first, she dismissed them as hallucinations, products of her fractured mind. "It's common in grief," her therapist, Dr. Harlan, assured her during their weekly sessions in his cluttered office. "Your brain is trying to cope. Give it time." But time only intensified the visions. Ethan appeared in her dreams, standing in a foggy landscape dotted with crumbling buildings, his hand outstretched. "Come find me, Mia," he'd whisper. His voice carried on a chilling wind. Waking up, she'd clutch her chest, tears streaming, the ache as fresh as the day of the funeral. As the second anniversary of Ethan's death approached, the sightings became more insistent. One crisp fall morning, as Amelia walked to school, she saw him clearly, leaning against the old oak tree in the park, wearing his favorite leather jacket, the one with the frayed cuffs. His eyes met hers, and for a moment, the world stopped. Then he turned and walked away, vanishing into the mist rolling off the nearby river. That was the day she decided to follow. Little did Amelia know that this pursuit would lead her straight into the clutches of something ancient and malevolent, a demon that thrived on the grief of the living, trapping them in a ghost town where sorrow was eternal, and escape was a myth whispered among the damned. Chapter 1. The Lure of the Lost. Amelia Whitaker woke to the sound of rain pattering against her bedroom window, a relentless drumbeat that mirrored the turmoil in her heart. It was early October, and the leaves outside had turned a fiery red, as if the trees themselves were bleeding in sympathy for her loss. She lay there for a moment, staring at the ceiling, where glow-in-the-dark stars from her childhood still faintly shimmered. Ethan had helped her stick them up when she was 8, climbing on a rickety chair and making goofy faces to make her laugh. "Our own private galaxy, Mia," he'd said. Now, those stars felt like mocking reminders of a universe that had gone dark. With a sigh, she swung her legs over the side of the bed, her feet touching the cold hardwood floor. The house was quiet, too quiet. Her mother was already at work, pulling a double shift at the hospital as a nurse, trying to drown her grief and exhaustion. Amelia glanced at the clock. 7:15 a.m. School started in 45 minutes, but the thought of facing another day of pitying stares and whispered conversations made her stomach twist. She dressed mechanically. Jeans, a hoodie that had once been Ethan's, now faded and soft from countless washes, and headed downstairs. The kitchen smelled of stale coffee and burnt toast, remnants of her mother's hasty breakfast. On the counter sat a note. "Have a good day, sweetie. Love, Mom." Amelia crumpled it, tossing it into the trash. Good day felt like an oxymoron. As she poured cereal into a bowl, her mind wandered back to the dream from last night. Ethan had been there again, more vivid than ever. He stood in a desolate street, surrounded by decaying houses with boarded windows and overgrown vines choking the porches. The sky was perpetually twilight, heavy with clouds that never broke. "I'm waiting, Mia," he had said, his voice echoing as if from a great distance. "Follow me home." Home? Their home was here, in Riverton, not some nightmarish village. But the dream felt real, the pull undeniable. Shaking her head, Amelia forced herself to eat, though each bite tasted like ash. The walk to school was a blur. Riverton High loomed ahead, its brick facade as unwelcoming as ever. Students milled about the entrance, laughing and chatting, their lives untouched by tragedy. Amelia kept her head down, earbuds in, blasting music to drown out the world. But as she crossed the parking lot, she saw him. Ethan. He was standing by the bike rack, his back to her, adjusting an invisible backpack. His hair, dark and tousled, caught the morning light. Amelia's heart leaped into her throat. "Ethan?" she whispered, freezing in place. He turned slightly, as if hearing her, then walked toward the side entrance of the school. Without thinking, Amelia followed, her pulse racing. Students parted around her, oblivious. She quickened her pace, dodging a group of freshmen. "Ethan, wait!" He slipped through the doors, and she burst in after him, the hallway bustling with activity. Lockers slammed, voices echoed, but Ethan was ahead, weaving through the crowd with ease. Amelia pushed past people, earning annoyed glances, but she didn't care. This was the clearest sighting yet, not a fleeting glimpse, but a deliberate path. He turned down a less crowded corridor, toward the old wing of the school where unused classrooms gathered dust. The air grew cooler, the lights flickering faintly. Amelia's breath came in short gasps. "Please, stop! It's me, Mia!" At the end of the hall, he paused at a door marked "Maintenance Only" and glanced back. His eyes, those familiar blue eyes, met hers, filled with a sadness that pierced her soul. Then it pushed through the door and vanished. Amelia reached the door, her hand trembling as she turned the knob. It creaked open to reveal a dusty storage room filled with old desks and boxes. No Ethan. Just emptiness. She sank to the floor, tears welling. "Why are you doing this?" she sobbed. A teacher found her there minutes later, guiding her to the nurse's office with concerned words. "Grief can play tricks, dear. Take the day off." But Amelia knew it wasn't a trick. Ethan was trying to lead her somewhere. That night, as she lay in bed, the dream returned. The village again, more detailed this time. Cobblestone streets cracked with age, houses with roofs caving in, a central square dominated by a withered fountain. Ethan stood there, waving her closer. "It's not far, Mia. Just follow." The next day, sightings continued. At the grocery store with her mom, she saw him in the produce aisle, picking up an apple like he used to. She dropped the cart and ran, but he disappeared around the corner. Her mother chalked it up to stress, but Amelia's resolve hardened. Days blurred into a cycle of anticipation and disappointment. Ethan appeared in the park, on the bridge over the river, even in the reflection of a shop window downtown. Each time, he led her a little farther from familiar territory, toward the outskirts of Riverton where the woods began. Her friends noticed the change. "You're spacing out a lot," her best friend Lila said during lunch one day. Lila had been there through the funeral, holding Amelia's hand as the casket lowered. "Is it Ethan again?" Amelia hesitated, then nodded. "I see him, Lila. Everywhere. It's like he's calling me." Lila's eyes widened. "Like? A ghost? I don't know, but I have to find out. Lila urged her to tell Dr. Harlan, but Amelia refused. This was personal, a thread connecting her to her brother. She began researching online. Ghost sightings, after-death communications, haunted places near Riverton. One forum post caught her eye. Eldridge Hollow, abandoned town in the woods, rumored to be cursed. People go missing there, drawn by visions of lost loved ones. The name sent a chill down her spine. It matched the dream village. Coordinates led to a spot just 10 miles from Riverton, hidden in the dense forest. That weekend, armed with a backpack of water, snacks, and a flashlight, Amelia set out. Her mom thought she was at Lila's for a study session. The trail was overgrown, branches snagging her clothes, but determination pushed her on. Hours in, the trees thinned, revealing ruins. Eldridge Hollow. The sign was rusted, barely legible. Houses sagged, windows dark voids. The air was heavy, silent except for the wind's moan. And there, in the square, stood Ethan. "Mia," he said, voice real this time. Joy surged, but as she ran to him, a fog rolled in, thick and impenetrable. Ethan faded, his expression turning to horror. "No, Mia, run!" Too late. The fog sealed the town, and a dark figure emerged. Tall, horned, eyes glowing. "Welcome to my domain," the demon growled. "Your grief is mine now." Chapter 2. Barricaded in the Shadows. Amelia's breath came in ragged gasps as she slammed the door behind her, the wood splintering slightly under the force. The house she had stumbled into was a relic of decay, walls peeling with wallpaper that hung like flayed skin, floors creaking under invisible weights, and the air thick with the musty scent of rot and forgotten lives. Outside, the fog pressed against the windows, like a living entity, tendrils of mist seeping through cracks, carrying whispers that sounded too much like Ethan's voice, distorted and pleading. "Mia, help me." She backed away from the door, her heart hammering in her chest, clutching her backpack like a lifeline. The straps dug into her palms, the only tangible thing in this nightmare. Tears streamed down her face, hot and unrelenting, as the reality crashed over her, trapped, alone, in a town that shouldn't exist, hunted by a demon that fed on her grief. The Sorrowkeeper's laughter still echoed in her ears, a guttural rumble that vibrated through the ground like distant thunder. Something scratched at the door, slow, deliberate, like nails dragging across wood. Amelia whimpered, sliding down against the far wall, pulling her knees to her chest. The room was dim, lit only by the faint glow filtering through grimy windows, but she could see shapes moving outside, ethereal figures drifting through the fog, their forms twisted and elongated, faces contorted in eternal agony. Ghosts, dozens of them, wandering the streets of Eldridge Hollow, drawn to the living like moths to a flame. One pressed its pale face against the glass, its eyes hollow sockets that seemed to suck in the light, mouth opening in a silent scream. "No, no, no," Amelia sobbed, burying her face in her backpack. The zipper dug into her forehead, but she didn't care. "Ethan, why did I follow you? This can't be real." Her mind raced with flashes of her brother, his smile, his protective hugs, but they twisted into horrors. His face pale and decaying, his hand reaching out from the fog, fingers bony and cold. The scratching intensified, joined by a low moan that seeped through the walls. The door rattled in its frame, as if unseen hands were testing its strength. Amelia's cries grew louder, echoing in the empty room, but she clamped a hand over her mouth, remembering the demon's words. "You're paying calls to them." Was she drawing more ghosts? The thought sent a fresh wave of terror through her. She imagined them bursting in, their icy fingers wrapping around her throat, dragging her into the mist to join their ranks. In the corner of her eye, a shadow shifted. Not the fog, but something darker, more solid. Amelia froze, her sobs catching in her throat. The room seemed to grow colder, her breath visible in puffs. From the gloom of a hallway leading deeper into the house, a faint light flickered to life. A lantern, its flame dancing weakly behind soot-streaked glass. "Who's there?" Amelia whispered, her voice trembling. The light grew closer, revealing a figure, an elderly man, stooped and frail, his face a map of deep wrinkles and shadowed eyes. His clothes were tattered remnants of another era. A wool coat moth-eaten and frayed, boots caked in mud that looked centuries old. He held the lantern aloft, its glow casting eerie shadows that made his features shift and distort, like a face melting in wax. "Shh, girl," he hissed, his voice a raspy whisper, like dry leaves scraping stone. "You'll bring them all down on us. Come with me, quickly, before they sense your warmth." Amelia hesitated, terror rooting her in place. Was this another trick, another vision conjured by the Sorrow Keeper? But the scratching at the door grew frantic, the wood groaning as if about to give way. The old man's eyes darted to the window, where more ghostly faces pressed in, their breaths fogging the glass from the other side. Impossible, since they had no breath. "Now," he urged, extending a gnarled hand. With no choice, Amelia scrambled to her feet, backpack clutched tight, and followed him into the hallway. The floorboards creaked ominously under their steps, each one sounding like a crack in the earth. The lantern's light bobbed ahead, illuminating cobwebs thick as curtains and walls etched with claw marks, as if something had tried to escape or break in. They descended a narrow staircase, the air growing damper and colder with each step. Amelia's teeth chattered, the chill seeping into her bones. At the bottom, the old man pushed open a heavy door, revealing a basement, a low-ceilinged chamber with stone walls slick with moisture, crates stacked haphazardly, and the faint drip-drip of water echoing like a heartbeat. He set the lantern down and quickly extinguished it, plunging them into near darkness, save for a single dim candle on a rickety table, its flame barely more than a spark. "Why did you put it out?" Amelia whispered, her eyes straining in the gloom. Shadows danced on the walls, forming shapes that looked like reaching hands. The old man barred the door with a heavy beam, then turned to her, his face ghostly pale in the candlelight. "Ghosts are attracted to the light, lass. It draws them like blood in water. We stay hidden here, in the dark. You're lucky I found you before they did. Those wanderers out there, they've been hungering for fresh sorrow. Yours would be a feast." Amelia sank onto a crate, tears still flowing. "Who are you? What is this place?" I came here following my brother. He's dead, but I saw him." The old man nodded slowly, settling into a chair that groaned under his weight. His eyes gleamed with a mix of pity and something darker, resignation perhaps. "Name's Elias Crow. Been here longer than I care to remember. And this place? Eldridge Hollow, cursed ground where the veil's torn thin. The Sorrow Keeper rules it now, a demon summoned from the pits of despair." He leaned forward, the candle flame reflecting in his eyes like dying embers. "Sit quiet and I'll tell you how it came to be. Might save your skin, or what's left of it." Amelia wiped her eyes, hugging her backpack tighter, as Elias began his tale, his voice a low murmur that blended with the dripping water, making the basement feel like a tomb. Chapter 3. The Curse Unveiled. The candle flickered erratically, casting long shadows that seemed to writhe across the basement walls like living vines. Amelia shivered, pulling her hoodie closer, but the cold was more than physical. It seeped from Elias's words, wrapping around her soul. The old man's face, illuminated in the dim glow, looked skeletal, his wrinkles deepening as he spoke, as if the story itself aged him further. "It started in 1842, Elias began, his voice cracking like old parchment. "Eldridge Hollow was a thriving mining town back then. Folks came from all over chasing silver in the hills. My great-grandfather was one of them, the first summoner, they called him later. Name of Jeremiah Crow. The mines were rich, but dangerous. Cave-ins, floods. Death was a constant companion. Then came the fever. Black rot, we named it, swept through like a scythe, claiming wives, children, whole families. Grief hung over the town, thicker than the mine dust." Amelia listened, transfixed, the distant moans from above filtering down like a macabre soundtrack. She imagined the streets outside filled with spectral echoes of those lost souls, their cries blending with the wind. "Jeremiah lost his wife and 2 young'uns to the fever," Elias continued, his eyes distant, staring into the flame. "The pain drove him mad. He turned to old books, forbidden tomes smuggled from Europe, speaking of entities that could ease suffering. One night, under a blood moon, he gathered the town's survivors in the plaza. They drew symbols in the dirt with their own blood, chanted words that twisted the tongue. They called forth the Sorrow Keeper, begging it to take their grief away." A sudden gust rattled the barred door above, and Amelia jumped, her heart pounding. "What happened?" she whispered, glancing upward as if expecting the ghosts to break through. Elias's lips curled into a bitter smile, revealing yellowed teeth. It came, a shadow rising from the earth, horns curling like smoke, eyes burning red. It promised relief, but demons don't give without taking. It fed on their sorrow, twisting it into chains. The dead didn't stay buried. They rose as wanderers, hollow shells craving the light of the living. The town was sealed in fog, erased from maps. Those who grieved elsewhere were lured here, like you, girl. Visions of lost loved ones, pulling them into the trap. Amelia's mind flashed to Ethan, his form in the square, fading as the demon appeared. My brother, is he real, or just bait? Both, maybe, Elias rasped. The Sorrow Keeper uses echoes of the dead to draw the living. Your pain's fresh, it savors that. The candle sputtered, nearly going out, plunging the room into deeper shadow. Amelia gasped, and Elias quickly cupped his hands around it, coaxing the flame back. Careful, no light, no hope. But too much, and they come. He leaned closer, his breath foul with age. There's a way to end it, though. Break the curse. Jeremiah's buddy, the first summoners, lies unburied in the plaza, preserved by the demon's magic. It's the anchor, the link binding the Sorrow Keeper to this world. Burn it, and the chain snaps. The fog lifts. The ghosts rest. The demon banished back to the void. Amelia's eyes widened. Burn it? But how? The plaza's out there with all those things. Elias nodded grimly. Hard eye. Wandering ghosts patrol the streets, drawn to any flicker of life. They'll tear you apart if they catch your scent. Sneak through the shadows. Avoid the light. The body's in the fountain's base, hidden under stone. Set it aflame with whatever you can find, matches, oil from the old lamps. She swallowed hard. You'll help me, right? Show me the way? The old man's expression darkened, his eyes dropping to the floor. Can't. I'm bound to this house. Part of the curse. Jeremiah's kin, you see. I tried once, long ago. The ghost dragged me back, flaying my spirit. I can't leave these walls. You're on your own, lass. But do it quick. The Sorrow Keeper knows you're here. It'll send more than ghosts soon. A low growl echoed from above, shaking dust from the ceiling. Amelia's blood ran cold. The basement felt smaller, the shadows closing in. She was alone in this hell, tasked with burning the source of the nightmare, or becoming part of it forever. Chapter 4. Shadows in the Mist. Amelia sat in the dim basement, the candle's feeble flame casting elongated shadows that danced like specters on the damp stone walls. Elias's words hung in the air like a death sentence. She had to do it alone. Burn the body of Jeremiah Crow, the first summoner, hidden in the plaza's fountain. Break the anchor, shatter the curse. But to do that she needed fire, something to ignite the preserved corpse and sever the Sorrow Keeper's link to Eldridge Hollow. Matches, a lighter, anything. The old man had mentioned oil lamps scattered in the houses, relics from the town's heyday, but finding one meant venturing out into the fog-shrouded streets, where the wandering ghosts hungered for the living. Her hands trembled as she gripped her backpack, the fabric damp from her tears. I can't, she whispered, her voice barely audible over the distant moans filtering through the ceiling. Those things out there, they'll kill me. Elias's eyes, sunken and weary, fixed on her with a mix of pity and urgency. You must, lass. The Sorrow Keeper's already sniffing your trail. Stay here, and it'll send its minions to drag you out. Out there, in the shadows, you've a chance. Move quiet, stay low, avoid the light. They crave it. And remember, the ghosts are echoes of grief. Don't let yours call to them. He handed her a small, rusted key from his pocket. This opens the back door upstairs, leads to an alley, less exposed than the front. Go now, before the fog thickens. Amelia nodded numbly, her mind a whirlwind of fear and determination. Ethan. This was for him. For the brother whose visions had lured her here, whose memory now fueled her resolve. If burning the body freed the souls, maybe it would free his echo too. She stood, legs shaky, and climbed the stairs, each creak echoing like a warning. At the top, she paused, listening. The scratching at the front door had stopped, but the wind howled outside, carrying faint wails that sounded human, almost. With a deep breath, she unlocked the back door and slipped out into the alley. The fog enveloped her immediately, cold and clammy, like the breath of the dead. It swirled around her ankles, tendrils reaching up as if to pull her down. The alley was narrow, flanked by crumbling brick walls overgrown with thorny vines that snagged at her clothes like skeletal fingers. She pressed against the wall, heart pounding, peering out toward the street. The ghosts were there, wandering eternally in the mist, old and new, a haunting procession of the damned. An elderly woman in a Victorian gown, her face gaunt and tear-streaked, shuffled along, clutching a faded parasol, murmuring names of lost children. Beside her, a modern figure, a young man in jeans and a hoodie, much like Ethan's, staggered, his eyes vacant, hands outstretched as if searching for someone just out of reach. They didn't walk with purpose, they drifted, their forms flickering like faulty holograms, leaving trails of frost on the cobblestones. Amelia's breath caught. One turned its head slightly, as if sensing her warmth, but continued on, its moan blending with the wind. She darted to the first house across the alley, a squat cottage with a sagging roof and windows like empty eye sockets. The door was ajar, hanging on one hinge. She pushed it open slowly, wincing at the groan of rusted metal. Inside, the air was stale, thick with dust that danced in the faint light seeping through cracks. Furniture lay overturned, chairs splintered as if in a struggle long ago. Amelia closed the door behind her, barricading it with a fallen shelf, and began her search. Her flashlight, pulled from her backpack, clicked on with a soft beam, but she kept it low, remembering Elias's warning. Light attracted them. She swept the room, a living area with a fireplace cold and ash-filled, shelves lined with moldy books. No matches, no lamp. She moved to the kitchen, rifling through drawers that stuck with age. Silverware clattered, too loud in the silence. Her pulse raced. Was that a footstep outside? Peering through a grimy window, she saw them again, the ghosts on the street. An old miner, his face blackened with soot, pickaxe dragging behind him, eternally searching for a vein that had collapsed on his family. Next to him, a newer soul, a woman in business attire, phone clutched in translucent hands, whispering about a car crash that took her child. They crossed paths without acknowledgement, locked in their private hells. Amelia shuddered. Their grief mirrored her own, a reminder that she could join them if she failed. Nothing in the kitchen. She crept upstairs, stairs creaking under her weight. The bedrooms were eerie time capsules. Beds with yellowed sheets, dressers with faded photographs of smiling families now reduced to dust. In one drawer, she found a box of old candles, but no way to light them. Frustration built, mingled with fear. The house felt alive. Walls whispering faint echoes of laughter turned to sobs. A sudden bang from downstairs made her freeze. The barricade? She tiptoed to the landing, flashlight off now, relying on the dim gray light from windows. A shadow moved in the living room. A ghost had wandered in through a broken window, an old man in suspenders, his form flickering. He pawed at the air, moaning, "My gold! Stolen!" Amelia backed away, heart in her throat, slipping into a closet. The door clicked shut, and she held her breath as his footsteps, ethereal yet audible, shuffled past. When silence returned, she emerged, slipping out the back door into another alley. One house down, countless more to go. The fog seemed thicker now, the ghosts more numerous. She dashed to the next building, a taller Victorian home with ornate trim now rotting like flesh from bone. Inside, the grandeur was decayed, chandeliers hanging precariously, covered in cobwebs that swayed like nooses. Amelia searched the parlor first, overturning cushions on a moth-eaten sofa. Dust billowed, making her cough, too loud. Outside, through the bay window, the street parade continued. A child ghost, no older than 10, in pinafore and braids, skipped eternally, calling for her mother. Beside her, a contemporary teen in ripped jeans and earbuds, face pale, murmuring about an overdose. Their paths intersected, the old and new blending in a timeless dance of sorrow. Amelia watched, transfixed and terrified. Was Ethan among them now? Wandering, waiting for her to fail? She shook off the thought, moving to the study. Bookshelves sagged under tomes of forgotten lore, mining logs, fever diaries. One entry caught her eye. The summoner promises peace, but the shadows grow. She pocketed a brittle page, perhaps useful. In a desk drawer, she found flint and steel, old, but potentially sparkable. Hope flickered, but she needed fuel. No lamp here. A creak from the hallway. Amelia spun, flashlight beam accidentally flashing. The light pierced the gloom. and from the shadows a ghost materialized, a woman in a nightgown, hair wild, eyes burning with accusation. "Thief!" she wailed, lunging with claw-like hands. Amelia screamed, dodging as icy fingers grazed her arm, numbing it instantly. She bolted downstairs, the ghost's wail echoing, drawing others. The front door burst open as more specters pressed in, their forms coalescing from the fog. She fled through the kitchen window, shattering glass that cut her palm. Blood dripped, warm against the cold, as she ran to the next house. A modest bungalow half collapsed. Panting, she barricaded herself in, bandaging her hand with a strip from her shirt. The pain grounded her, a reminder she was still alive. House after house blurred in a nightmare odyssey. In the third, a farmhouse-style dwelling, she rummaged through a pantry filled with rusted cans. Outside, ghosts. An old farmer with a scythe, eternally harvesting nothing, crossed by a modern delivery driver, package in hand, searching for an address that no longer existed. Their moans harmonized in a chilling chorus. Nothing useful. Fourth house, a schoolteacher's cottage, blackboard still etched with lessons, ghosts visible, a stern schoolmarm in high collar, whipping invisible students, alongside a young teacher in slacks, grading phantom papers. Amelia found a box of Strike Anywhere matches, but they were damp, useless without drying. Fifth, an apothecary's shop turned home, bottles shattered on floors. Poisons and elixirs long evaporated. Ghosts, old alchemists mixing eternal potions. New pharmacist counting pills for a patient who never came. She pocketed a vial of oily residue, perhaps flammable. The searches dragged on, each house a labyrinth of decay and danger. In the sixth, she hid under a bed as a family of ghosts. Old pioneers argued in loops about lost land, their voices rising to shrieks. Seventh, found kerosene traces in a can, but no container to carry it safely. Outside, the eternal wanderers multiplied. Victorian ladies in mourning veils weeping for husbands, mixed with contemporary joggers frozen mid-stride. Hearts failed from unseen stress. Amelia's body ached, fear exhausting her. Flashbacks haunted her. Ethan teaching her to ride a bike, his laughter, the funeral, rain-soaked earth, the visions that led her here. "I have to keep going," she muttered, steeling herself. Eighth house, a grander manor, rooms vast and echoing. She searched parlors, libraries, attics. Dust choked her. Spiders skittered across skin. Ghosts outside, aristocrats in finery dancing a macabre waltz, intertwined with office workers in suits, clutching briefcases of unfulfilled dreams. Ninth, a blacksmith's forge home. Anvil cold, hammer strikes echoed faintly, ghostly, found charcoal bits, good for fuel. 10th, nearing the plaza, the fog denser, ghosts thicker. An inn-like structure, beds unmade for centuries. Searched cellars, finding wine bottles. Alcohol could burn. 11th, the last house before the plaza, a dilapidated cabin on the edge. Amelia entered warily, the door swinging open with a sigh. Inside, clutter everywhere, furniture upended, walls scarred. She searched frantically, heart racing as moans grew louder outside. In the back room, amid debris, she found it. An old lamp, brass tarnished but intact, reservoir half full of oil. "Yes," she whispered, unscrewing the top. The wick was dry, but with her flint it could light. But as she pocketed it, the room darkened unnaturally. A chill wind extinguished her cautionary flashlight beam. From the shadows a figure emerged, not a wandering ghost, but something worse. Tall, emaciated, with skin like parchment stretched over bones, eyes glowing faintly green. It was a sentinel spirit, guardian of relics, its form twisting like smoke. "Mine," it rasped, voice like grinding gravel. Clawed hands reached, nails elongated and sharp. Amelia backed away, tripping over rubble. The sentinel lunged, its touch freezing her leg, numbness spreading. She screamed, scrambling up, dodging as it swiped, tearing her backpack strap. The room came alive, furniture levitating, slamming against walls. "Thief of light!" it howled, summoning wisps that nipped at her skin like icy bites. Panic fueled her. She grabbed a fallen chair leg, swinging wildly. It connected with ethereal force, staggering the sentinel. She bolted for the door, the creature pursuing, its wail alerting street ghosts. Fog churned as she burst out, running toward the plaza. The square loomed, fountain cracked and dry. Ghosts converged, but she dove behind debris, heart exploding. With trembling hands she approached the fountain's base, prying stones with bare fingers. Dirt gave way. She began to dig, nails breaking, earth cold and unyielding, the body waiting below. Chapter 5. Flames of Awakening. Amelia's fingers clawed into the cold, unforgiving earth, nails splintering as she dug deeper into the fountain's base. The plaza of Eldridge Hollow stretched around her like a forgotten graveyard, the cobblestones cracked and uneven, weeds pushing through like desperate fingers from below. The fog hung heavy, a suffocating blanket that muffled sounds and blurred the edges of reality. Her breath came in shallow, ragged bursts, each one laced with the metallic tang of fear and the earthy scent of disturbed soil. The old lamp she had found in the last house lay beside her, its brass surface tarnished and cold, the oil reservoir sloshing faintly as she shifted. She had managed to light the wick briefly during her escape, but the flame had guttered out in the wind, leaving her with only the promise of fire. The hole grew wider, her hands raw and bleeding, dirt caking under her nails like dried blood. How long had she been digging? Minutes? Hours? Time in this cursed place warped, stretching like taffy pulled too thin. The wandering ghosts circled the plaza's perimeter, their ethereal forms drifting in and out of the mist. Old miners with soot-blackened faces, Victorian women in tattered gowns clutching faded bouquets, modern souls in casual clothes, their eyes hollow pits of endless sorrow. They moaned in unison, a low dirge that vibrated through the ground, as if the earth itself grieved. Amelia glanced up occasionally, her heart skipping beats when one seemed to pause, tilting its head as if sensing her life force, her pulsing grief. "There!" she whispered triumphantly, her voice hoarse. Her fingers brushed something hard and unyielding. Bone. She pulled back a layer of soil, revealing the skeletal remains of Jeremiah Crow. The body was unnaturally preserved, the skin leathery and taut over the bones, eyes sunken into dark sockets that stared accusingly at the sky. Tatters of clothing clung to the frame, a once fine coat now riddled with holes where insects had feasted long ago. The air around the corpse hummed with dark energy, a faint vibration that made Amelia's skin crawl, as if the demon's essence pulsed from the anchor itself. She sat back on her heels, wiping sweat from her brow with a dirt-streaked forearm. The lamp was her only hope now. With trembling hands she unscrewed the reservoir, pouring a thin stream of oil over the body. The liquid soaked into the desiccated flesh, darkening it like spilled ink. She struck the flint from her pocket. Once, twice, sparks flying but no ignition. "Come on," she muttered, frustration mixing with terror. The ghosts edged closer, their moans growing louder, more insistent. One, a child with ringlets and a soiled dress, reached out a translucent hand, whispering, "Join us, end the pain." On the third strike, a spark caught the wick of the lamp, the flame leaping to life with a whoosh. Amelia's eyes widened in relief. She lowered the lamp toward the oil-soaked corpse, the fire dancing eagerly. But just as the flame licked the edge of the body, a gust of wind, unnatural, laced with the scent of decay, swept through the plaza. The lamp tumbled from her grasp, the oil splashing wildly. It arced in a chaotic spray, dousing not just the corpse, but splattering across Amelia's clothes, her hoodie, her jeans, soaking into the fabric like a curse. The flame extinguished on impact, plunging the area back into dim foglight. "No!" Amelia cried, scrambling to relight it. But the flint slipped from her blood-slicked fingers, lost in the dirt. Panic surged as she realized the oil on her clothes carried the flammability now, a dangerous, unintended conduit. The splash had created a line, a trail of oil, connecting her directly to Jeremiah's body, like a fuse waiting to be lit. And then, the air grew heavier, the fog parting like curtains drawn by invisible hands. The Sorrow Keeper emerged from the mist, its towering form materializing with a low, rumbling growl that shook the cobblestones. Horns curled from its shadowed head, eyes glowing like coals in a dying fire. Its skin a patchwork of writhing shadows that seemed to absorb the light. "Foolish child!" it hissed, voice a chorus of 1,000 anguished screams. "You think you can sever my bond? Your grief is mine, eternal, delicious." Amelia backed away, her soaked clothes clinging coldly to her skin. The ghosts halted their wandering, forming a silent circle around the plaza. their eyes fixed on the confrontation. The demon advanced slowly, deliberately, each step cracking the ground like thunder. It raised a clawed hand and the air shimmered. From the fog, a figure stepped forward. Ethan, her brother, looking just as he had in life, tall, with that easy smile, his leather jacket unzipped, hair tousled by an unseen breeze. "Mia," he said softly, his voice warm and familiar, cutting through the terror like a lifeline. "It's me. Come here. I've been waiting for you." Amelia's heart lurched. It couldn't be real. She knew that. But the pull was magnetic. Tears welled as she took a hesitant step forward. "Ethan, is it really you?" He nodded, extending a hand. "The accident. It was all a mistake. We can be together again. No more pain, no more loss. Just us, like before." The world around her blurred, the plaza fading as a wonderful dream enveloped her senses. Suddenly she was back in their childhood home. Sunlight streaming through windows, the smell of pancakes wafting from the kitchen. Ethan was there, laughing as he flipped them on the stove, batter splattering playfully. "Race you to the table, Mia," he called. She ran, giggling, the warmth of family wrapping around her like a blanket. Outside, the yard bloomed with flowers, birds singing melodies of joy. No divorce, no accident, just endless summer days. Bike rides through the neighborhood, late-night talks under the stars. Ethan hugged her, his embrace solid and reassuring. "See, this is what we've always wanted. Stay with me." The dream intensified, layers unfolding like petals. They traveled together, beaches with turquoise waves crashing, mountains where they hiked hand in hand, cities buzzing with life where Ethan pointed out street performers and bought her ice cream. "No more loneliness," he whispered. "I'll protect you forever." Her grief dissolved, replaced by bliss, a euphoric haze that made her forget the cold fog, the ghosts, the demon. She walked toward him in the dream, arms outstretched, the plaza's horrors distant echoes. But as she approached in reality, the illusion cracked. A faint voice pierced the dream, Ethan's but different, strained and urgent. "Come back to me, Amelia. Don't listen. Fight it." The dream shattered like glass. Amelia blinked. Back in the plaza, mere feet from the demon's guise of her brother, the Sorrow-Keeper's Ethan smiled wider, too wide, teeth sharpening into points. "Yes, come closer." She hesitated, the real Ethan's warning echoing in her mind. Was it a memory, a true echo? The demon lunged, its claws wrapping around her neck, squeezing with icy strength. Air fled her lungs, spots dancing in her vision. The ghosts wailed in approval, closing the circle tighter. "Your soul will feed me eternally," the demon snarled, its breath foul with the rot of centuries. Amelia's hands flailed, grasping at nothing. But then, the oil on her clothes, the splash that had connected her to the corpse. An idea sparked, desperate and mad. With her last breath she smiled, a bright, defiant smile that lit her face amid the darkness. "Not today," she gasped. She struck the flint one final time, sparks flying onto her oil-soaked sleeve. The fabric ignited instantly, flames racing up her arm like hungry serpents. Pain exploded, white-hot and searing, but she embraced it, twisting toward the corpse. The fire followed the oil trail, leaping from her clothes to Jeremiah's body in a blazing arc. The corpse erupted in flames, the preserved flesh crackling and popping, black smoke billowing into the fog. The Sorrow-Keeper yelled, a piercing, agonized shriek that rent the air, echoing through the town like a death knell. Its form convulsed, shadows unraveling like frayed threads, eyes dimming from red to ash-gray. "No! My anchor!" it bellowed, claws loosening from her neck as it staggered back. Amelia dropped to the ground, the fire on her clothes spreading, but the pain blurred into numbness. The fog began to lift slowly, wisps dissolving like morning mist under the sun. Ghosts faded, their moans turning to sighs of release, forms dissipating into nothingness. The plaza brightened, the curse breaking. She lay there, vision fading, the flames dying out as the last of the oil burned. Darkness claimed her. Time stretched, an endless void. Then, a sound pierced the silence, a constant beeping, rhythmic and mechanical. Beep, beep, beep. Amelia's eyelids fluttered, heavy as lead. Light seeped in, harsh and sterile. She was in a bed, sheets crisp and white, tubes snaking from her arms. Hospital machines hummed around her, monitors displaying vital signs, and the fourth dripped steady and insistent. "Amelia?" A voice, familiar, alive. She turned her head weakly, eyes focusing on the figure at her bedside. Ethan, her brother, older now, stubble on his chin, eyes rimmed with exhaustion but filled with relief. "Oh God, Mia, you're awake." Tears blurred her vision. Ethan? But the accident. Eldridge, the demon. He shook his head, grasping her hand. "Shh. There was an accident, but it was you, 2 years ago. You were driving home from school, hit by that truck. You've been in a coma ever since. Mom and we've been here every day. The doctor said you might never wake up." The pieces fell into place, shattering the nightmare. The life she thought she lived, the grief over Ethan's death, the visions, the ghost town, all a construct of her comatose mind, weaving trauma into a horror story. She had been the one in the crash, her brain trapping her in a loop of sorrow. Ethan hugged her gently, careful of the tubes. "You're back. That's all that matters." Amelia looked through the window, sunlight streaming in, the world outside vibrant and real. A sign of relief washed over her. The nightmare ended, life beginning anew.